Hey everybody, welcome. This is Dr. Mark Arcuri here in Santa Fe, New Mexico again this evening, this late afternoon, I should say. Gorgeous, gorgeous day as usual, and with the summer upon us and the days getting shorter minute by minute, I thought it was be a fun opportunity to come outside and shoot this video tonight and be with you. So keeping that in mind, as I get a little bit of last sunshine for the day, get my vitamin D. Keep in mind that I'm on my phone here, so it'd be a little bit difficult to follow comments if they do come in during the broadcast. So if you do make comments while I'm speaking, I will definitely see them as soon as we finish, and I will answer them right away on the website and also wherever else you may make comments during the week. And I appreciate those very much, and I love to get the emails that we get as well. And as we move along on this journey of Paradise Rediscovered, we're in week 9, chapter 9 of Paradise Rediscovered tonight. Chapter's called Blessed Fear. Blessed fear. Does that sound like an oxymoron or not? But it's not. I promise you it's not. But before I forget, I just looked at the calendar, and as you guys know, I'll be in Maui in a few weeks for my birthday week. But what's really, really cool, because I'll also be there finishing Paradise Rediscovered. I got a mock-up book cover this week, which is super, super, super. Can't wait to share it with you, but I can't do that quite yet. But Paradise Rediscovered, the book, was born in Maui when I was there last time, several years ago. I'm going to finish it in Maui and do some videos in Maui around the book. And as it turns out, the final chapter of Paradise Rediscovered on our live videos will be in 3 weeks, chapter 12, and I will be in Maui. So I get to record that in Maui and be in that moment and that inspiration, that energy while I share it with you. So that's really exciting in a few weeks. But for now, we've got Paradise Rediscovered, chapter 9, which I've titled Blessed Fear. And the theme on my little card here that I'd written for this chapter is what inspired me to write it and to share it with you this evening is: fears can trigger going back to old ways, but not a place I would rather be. Fear can trigger us to want to go back to old ways, but not to a place I'd rather be. And that has been super important throughout my work. I've done a lot of work, as many of you know, with individuals who have had very, very serious chronic illnesses, oftentimes terminal illnesses, many times intractable illnesses, so illnesses that cause things like great pain and suffering that medicine really can help, and oftentimes are terminal in the end. But it's very, 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 very difficult. And I can't tell you how many times, especially when people still have some hope, which I always encourage, that they'll get through it in a way that might lead to a cure or long-term remission or whatever it may be. I can't tell you how often I've heard the words, as soon as I get back to my old self, everything will be fine. Once I get back to my old self, if I could only get back to my old self. And if you know from our discussions about transition and transformation, regardless of life circumstances, but that process of transition and transformation, it requires that we give up the idea of getting back to our old self. Because to do that, even in a non-terminal situation, is to, by definition, subvert the process of transformation. We can't go back to our old self completely and have been transformed by what's going on in our lives. And so oftentimes, so you've got transition, things are changing in your life, you're dealing with something very difficult. When you get to a place of being transformed by that transformation, we often say that one of the hallmarks of transformation after transition is that we do go back to old ways. We go back to old things in a new way. So we honor that we've been changed in this process. And while we might find ourselves doing some of the things we used to do when we get to the place of transformation through transition, we actually find that we're doing them in a different way. And that's the piece about transformation. We have been changed in that process. So this idea of getting back to my old self really is a misnomer. It's not possible. And if we try to force it, we end up subverting the transition process, and we end up slowing it down, sometimes to a crawl, when we stay there forever. And transition is not a place that any of us wants to be any longer than we need to be. We want to get to that place of transformation and move on with our lives. But so what makes that happen? Why do we find ourselves wanting to stay in this place of transition, or subvert the process and get out of it and go back to our old selves? Well, it's fear. It's fear of the future. It's fear of the unknown. It's fear of what's coming next. It's fear of not being able to bear whatever it is that we're going through while we're being transitioned on the way to transformation. And transition now, by definition, is a very dark, scary place. And there's no question about that. We're often very alone. There are people around us who can't exactly understand what we're going through. We as much as we want them to walk with us through that transition, they really can't do that. We have to do it on our own. It's a trial by fire in a lot of ways, and there's a lot of fear around that. But what I want to instill on you this evening is that the fear really does not have to be as scary as we make it out to be. I think our ideas about fear come from that early programming that we've talked about in the Paradise Rediscovered process, those early years where other people kind of shape us and give us their perspective on the world before we're old enough to have our own and to come to our own conclusions. And one of the things that we're taught is that fear is negative. It hurts. It can be harmful. Fear is something we can use against others when we're feeling fearful ourselves and want to instill fear in them so that we don't look like we're such fraidy cats, but we can have control over them instead. Fear is misused in many, many ways, but what I want to instill on you this evening is that fear is really a blessing in our lives. There are a couple of reasons for that. One is that remember that you can't experience a coin without experiencing both sides. So what's the opposite of fear? I think it's peace. Instead of being fearful, I'm at peace with what's going on around me or within me. And so you can't experience peace in your life if you can't experience fear. You can't embrace peace when you have the opportunity unless you can embrace fear when it presents itself. Now, it's a tough one. So in order to do that, we've got to find a way to make fear useful and to feel like fear is something that we can benefit from instead of something to try to shun and push away. So what I want to impress upon you is that you've got to find a way in the moments when fear is present in your life to ask yourself, what is it here for? What is its purpose? Nothing happens without a purpose. Fear wasn't invented as part of our repertoire without some reason for being there, and a reason that's benevolent to us, beneficial to us, not something to get in our way. So Debbie Ford, author of, the late Debbie Ford, author of The Dark Side of the Light Chasers, taught so much about the shadow side. That was her life's mission when she was alive. And if you think of fear as part of your shadow, then you're able to look into it a little bit and say, okay, it's normal. It's part of the shadow, so it's going to be a little difficult. It's the B side of that coin of peace. So it's a side we don't necessarily turn over by choice, but it's here. So what is its purpose? Debbie taught us to always ask what its purpose is in a dialogue. And in getting that answer, then acting on whatever it is. So the way that she suggested, and the way that I love to do, whether it's fear or anything else that I'm struggling with, and it can be even peace if I'm having peace in my life and I don't understand it. But with fear is to first give it a name. Give it a name, something other than just fear. So personify it. Maybe Freddy Fear if you're a guy, or Frida Fear if you're a woman, or any name that you choose. And you sit down with it, take a few moments and say, Freddy Fear, Frida Fear, what are you here to tell me? What's your message? What are you here to teach me in this moment that's so pressing that you've got to raise your ugly head, if I can be judgmental about you, and come out in my face so that I can't not see you. And you sit and you listen for the answer that you get. You don't think about it, you just listen for the answer that comes. And then you thank Freddie, you thank Frida, let them go on their way, and think about what they've said, and act on it, consider it, do whatever it is that you feel you need to do in response to that. And when you're able to do that, it diffuses the purpose of fear. I hear a neighbor getting in their car, driving away. It diffuses the purpose. It doesn't diffuse the purpose of fear. It diffuses the scare tactics that fear has used to get your attention. And once you do that, fear can kind of sit back again into the background. It can go back on the flip side of the coin, and it can be quiet, knowing that it's served its purpose. So that's what I want you to think about this week. Think about ways that fear crops up in your everyday life. Maybe there's something going on in your life that's an ongoing connection to fear, or just fear that you have in a day to come. And think about what it's here for. Ask it directly. What is the purpose of this fear in this moment? What are you here to tell me? And see if, number one, it doesn't quiet it down. And see if, number two, whatever it is that you come up with, that you hear as your message, is right on. It's going to be on target. And if you take care of that, if you attend to it, then the fear is not going to have to come back until there's another time. Now, how this ties into Paradise Rediscovered is that fear often is born of those moments when you're not being your authentic self. So the answer that you're going to get from the fear is something along the lines of what you can do or feel or think that's more consistent with who you really are in response to whatever the situation is. And when you do that, you're closer and closer to that authentic piece of you that you're living more and more into as we go through Paradise Rediscovered. So that's my message for this evening. Let us know in the comments below what you think right now. Let us know in the comments as well during the week as you have experiences with what's going on. And ask questions. We'll be happy to answer them. Send us emails. Go to drmarkarcuri.com and you can leave comments there as well, and download free downloads that we have available, as well as read the blogs that I've got up there, which this week explained a little bit more about my magical Maui manifesting trip that's coming up in a few weeks. So that's it. Lots and lots of love and gratitude. Thank you so much from Santa Fe, New Mexico this evening. Have a wonderful week and weekend ahead, and keep this dialogue going with your comments. Good night.